Now we have our second presentation from Andrew Ritchie, Aberdeenshire Council, Developing the Young Workforce, Lead Officer, Foundation Apprenticeships, which actually ties in quite nicely with Robert's presentation earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. And yes, absolutely, the Chair ties in, not least because Robert and I got caught there using just in the break. My name is Andrew Ritchie. I'm the Lead Officer for Developing Young Workforce in Aberdeenshire Council. I sit within the Council's Education Service, and my background is in secondary education. What I'm going to touch upon today is the delivering positive outcomes for young people, employers and communities in Aberdeenshire, and that's fundamentally what we're trying to do. And primarily what we're going to be looking at is the Foundation Apprenticeship Programme in Aberdeenshire Council. Now we've got 1,000 young folk at the moment in Aberdeenshire schools undertaking a Foundation Apprenticeship, and I'll take you through what a Foundation Apprenticeship is, why they're important to our regional economy, the impact that we're actually seeing with the Foundation Apprenticeships. And then we'll move into looking specifically at our developments of in the land environment and nature side of things. And the presentation that we've just heard there was absolutely superb, and has including the questions, set things up very well indeed for I'm going to take you through just now. So I suppose really what a lot of the work I'm doing at the moment is how do we get agriculture more formally into our curriculum. And I'll also touch upon many of the issues of concern that Robert raised regarding workforce, the issues raised by Councillor Braes and others about the importance of work experience, and also Lorna's point there towards the end about how do we get agriculture embedded in the curriculum. So I always start any talk I actually put these slides together. I was invited to speak to Bahrain. They wanted to see, the Bahraini government wanted to see what Aberdeenshire Council was doing with Foundation Apprenticeships, and they were quite intrigued. So I put these slides together to see it. And what does Aberdeenshire look like? Well, it looks like this. And the reason I say this, when you're as a school leader, you're looking to shape up your curriculum. Your curriculum rationale, as we call it, but your curriculum needs to reflect your local area, and hence why the individual schools, the curriculum will vary accordingly. But Aberdeenshire, and indeed the North East, also looks like this. And I hadn't just put these slides together for the day. You can see the prominence there of the rural sector, the high-end food and drink, and indeed we've even got Coos and a farmer in the pictures. So the curriculum that we're putting together in our schools has got to reflect the kind of our hinterland, but it's also got to reflect the economy. So Foundation Apprenticeships, strategic context rests within the Wood Report 10 years ago now, and indeed in this very building next door. I remember I was head teacher at the time, and I remember collectively as head teacher getting Sir Ian Wood wagging his finger at us saying your curriculum does not meet the needs of employers and our economy, and he set a challenge, and that was part of his evidence gathering for the report. And recommendation 1 of the Wood Report is that pathways should start in the senior phase, which leads to the delivery of industry-recognised vocational qualifications alongside academic qualifications. And that's, if you like, the strategic context for Foundation Apprenticeships. Our model of delivery in Aberdeenshire is that the programme is led by a central team. The courses are timetabled in school as you would timetable any other higher or national course. And that's crucial. We really try and ship the youngsters out of their communities. The Parative Esteem, very much so, with the higher and other senior phase courses. And it's a partnership model, partnership between pupils, parents, schools, employers, training providers, and so on. So there's a real, we simply could not do what we're doing here alone. It's a universal offer, because whether a youngster leaves school to go straight into work, or a modern apprenticeship, or goes via college or university, at some point they enter into the workforce, and they're going to need these skills that we're developing up. What we're seeing is a significant and sustained impact and positive outcomes for young people, schools, crucially employers and also our communities. This gives you an idea of the extent our delivery, where we've got, down the left-hand side there is the frameworks that we deliver, and the right-hand side you can see the schools who are delivering. So it's an extensive programme right across the area. What we're seeing is the creation of what the OECD refer to as a career pathways programme. You do wonder why on earth have we been in amongst this more effectively before now, but then we've also seen increased attainment, performance in school, including closing the gap, improved and sustained positive destinations, the development of the employability skills has been referenced quite regularly earlier on, more effective pathways into employment, more meaningful employer engagement partnership, and crucially addressing workforce needs. And not least, for example, as Aberdeenshire Council, as an employer, we're looking to see how we can try and address workforce development issues, and also crucially as well, equity and promotion equalities. So what is a foundation apprenticeship? Well, foundation apprenticeship is at SEQF level 4, 5 and 6. A higher is at level 6, and then you've got national 4s and 5s as well. The courses are co-designed and co-delivered by industry. Actually, more often than not, designed and delivered by industry and supported by us. There's two elements to the course. There's the theory part, which generally is a National Progression Award, and then there's the work placement. Now, crucially, the work placements are actually formally assessed. The workplace learning is formally assessed, and the two together gives you the foundation apprenticeship. And the Bairns, I keep saying this, listen to what the Bairns are saying. They say they take the learning for their theory, and in that same week, they take that learning into their workplace situation, and they take the learning for the workplace back into the theory, and hence the enrichment of the learning. The ones that we've got level 6 seems higher. Now, as employers, many employers in here, and I very much put this message to you, these are the foundation apprenticeship being developed up in the areas that the Scottish Government have seen both the regional and national skill shortages projections, so hence the subject areas. But certainly accountancy, business, but I think probably even creative digital media, possibly the engineering, certainly food and drink technologies, the software, and so on, and scientific technologies would all be of direct relevance, I would have thought, to the agricultural sector. So that's the offer there. And the quote there at the bottom, this is the Bairns tell us time and time again, we get real life experience in real life environments with real life people. Now, and I can say this as a teacher that says this about us as teachers, I'm not so sure, but you can see the importance that the young folk are placed in that. And then at level 4 and 5, same as national 4 and 5, same level, we've got automotive, construction and hospitality, and we've got, I think, over 100 in each really popular courses that are, again, mainstreamed in their curriculum. Why we need foundation apprenticeships? This is for the P&G a few weeks ago. Blue Tune to get 8,000 jobs, fantastic. But how do we actually generate the workforce for that? That's a workforce that's coming through skilled and engaged and looking to continue to work in the local communities. And the quotes there are self-explanatory. We really do need to be looking at how well prepared are we in terms of the flow through the workforce to make full use of this. And obviously, if it's required, a skilled workforce for energy transition, engineering, IT, scientific technologies, construction, automotive, business, accountancy, digital media, fine, absolutely clear. However, one of the limiters on us being able to develop up the opportunities is actually the capacity in things like health and social care, children and young people, hospitality, and crucially in the North East, food and drink technology. And I would also include the ferment sector here as well. We're already, as we've just heard, struggling to recruit. If we're then saying, right, let's pathway the youngsters that are coming through entirely into energy transition for about these businesses and that are so important to the local economy and indeed the local environment. So we've got a massive demand, however, for the workforce. Every sector I speak to are asking the same thing. Their greatest concern is workforce and the development of skills. So we really need to be looking at homegrown talent and ensure that we're pathwaying our young folk into the job opportunities that are here. And that's where the Scotland's Foundation Apprenticeship Programme comes in. Now, one or two things that would just to touch upon. Scotland has a very successful and high-performing education system, and that's not just the world according to me. The last Eurostat data that we were part of, the 50.4% of Scotland's population was educated to degree level. The EU average is 31.6. You wouldn't think we've been really successful in education when you listen to our media, but we certainly are. So as educationalists, we should be sitting back, getting the cigars out, feet up the desk, reading the paper, saying, "Job well done. We've done it. We have done as we've been asked. We've got Europe's most educated population." However, let's take a look at it, because there is a massive issue in our system of overqualification, and Robert touched upon that earlier on. Employers and economic development require skills to meet sector needs, and there's an increasing demand for employers, colleges and universities for pupils with skills. I'll touch upon our work with Aberdeen University's Medical School later on. There's also the economically inactive concerns, post-COVID is in particular, real issue for the Scottish Government in terms of how they drive that forward and deal with economically inactive concerns. Pupil attendance, engagement, mental health and confidence are all issues that the Scottish Government, quite understandably, are very concerned about and trying to address. So we've delivered on, as educationalists and as councils and local authorities and indeed as communities, we've delivered on what was asked of the system. But actually, have we been doing the right thing? Were we asked to do the right thing? And this goes back, maybe even further, but you go back to 97 and the Blair mantra of education, education, education. Was it the right thing? Now, I was speaking to Robert about this earlier on. I came into teaching, started at Ellen Academy in 1991. And in the data here, you can see in 1992 is the percentage of the different sectors whose workforce had degrees. Look what's happened in that 30-year period. And the massive shift in these occupations to the percentage of young people with degrees. And I think it was Robert who quite rightly was identifying that. Is this what actually the system requires? What it's led to is actually a massive issue. There's a report produced for the Scottish Government in November 22, graduate overqualification in Scotland. What's led to is significantly poorer job quality, poorer job autonomy and well-being, limited skills development and opportunities, lower levels of job and life satisfaction, impact and performance, more likely to quit a job, and so on and so on. So a high turnover of jobs as well, often for short time work, because there's been this disjoint between the career aspirations of the young folk and their perceptions in their communities, and actually what the requirements in the job market are. So what's required? We need a systemic approach, and that is the Wood report referenced. From primary school to employment, we need a seamless continuum. And once you start thinking like that, the OECD research calls it a career pathways program. Actually, a lot of things fall into place, because we've got to do this through the collectively. The employers cannot do it on their own. Local authorities and education services cannot do it on their own. So a parity, we also need this parity of esteem between the academic and the vocational, professional, technical. We had a couple of times there saying my class left and went into work and so on. And that's one of the things that we're seeing very clearly here with development of foundation apprenticeships. Workforce development, skills development, and matching the curriculum to pupil career aspirations, but also the labour market demands. Now, the fascinating thing, I'll show you this later on, our pupil career aspirations align almost perfectly to the regional labour market demands. So there's a lot of the constituent parts, and what we're having to do here is there. So I mentioned the OECD Research Career Pathways Programme. What they're saying is the crucial aspect in all of this is a programme that's delivered within general education. It's over 1 or 2 days a week, and it's delivered in what we would refer to as the senior phase of secondary school between ages 15 and 18. Leave it later, you're not having the same impact. So that's what the research is saying. You introduce students to broad vocational fields to gain occupationally specific experience and or credentials, rather than prepare them for a specific occupation. The example we heard earlier on about the part-time egg packer ending up the general manager with Robert Nethel, it's that type of approach for folk develop and they understand, actually, I really like this. We see it in healthcare. For young folk might think, well, I'm wanting to do this particular thing in healthcare, but they get a placement in a care home and think, actually, I never realised there was a career progression here for me. I love this. This is exactly what I want to be. Typically structured around work curricular work placements and so on, and provides students with the opportunity to prepare for employment in a specific vocational area without closing off their options wherever they may be. The research was published in 2024, and this was how they fine-tuned it. And there's a couple of bullet points there. The potential to achieve university credits and/or industry-recognised credentials while still at school, so important. And then the targeting of a broad range of learners. This is not just about lower achievers or anything like it, and that's so important when we're looking at part of his team. So, I've covered that already. For about the impact and the performance. There's a lot of this data you might be struggling to see, certainly in the whole here, but I can share this, Keith, and share with the after us. Here, this gives you an idea of the programme that we've delivered. We introduced our programme in 2019-20 and 2018-19. The model that was being delivered was through the college with under 30 starts. And we realised we had to do something here because we saw these courses as crucial how we took forward the regional economy. So we went for that to 208 in our first year, and you can see how it's developed up. The graph at the bottom gives an idea that the red line is the demand. We demand for these courses far outstrips what we're able to deliver. And that's one of the areas we're working with the Scottish Government on at the moment to see if we can how we can maybe move to a model where each young person in Scotland can have the opportunity to undertake a foundation apprenticeship. Now, this is about the impact on young people's attainment. Now, I don't want to bore you to death with the data here. We measure schools' attainment based on Insight tariff points. And this is a programme that the Scottish Government uses where if you pass a higher, you get a certain number of what's called Insight tariff points. Okay, so down the left-hand side, you see the average leaver in Aberdeenshire, and the bottom line there in Aberdeenshire is 464 Insight tariff points that average leavers leaving school with. Look at the middle column, that's the average attainment for those who have undertaken a foundation apprenticeship. Look at the difference, an increase in their attainment of almost 70%, 69.8%. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Why? Well, we'll come on to this. It's because they're getting a curriculum that actually they find meaningful. And this isn't just 1 year. If I show you this, along the top line there, you see the average increase in attainment. It's 61% across the 5 years we've got the full data for. This is ongoing, and it's year on year, so there's obviously something in this. But also you'll have heard about the poverty-related attainment gap. If you look at the bottom line there, there's Aberdeenshire, and this is expressed in Insight tariff points. There's Aberdeenshire's poverty-related attainment gap. That's the gap between those from the most deprived areas against those from the least deprived, and you can see Aberdeenshire's gap there. But if you look at the middle, this is the foundation apprenticeships data, and those in yellow are as not only have we closed the poverty-related attainment gap, we've actually reversed it. It's astonishing. And it goes back to a time, I suppose, a teacher, you can say, well, he's left school, but he's got maximum in his life. He's not left with very many qualifications, but you could see he had something. That's what we're now seeing, this engagement, and it's that type of thing that's pulling through and giving us this performance. It is remarkable, and it is sustained. This just same kind of thing. It just shows you, if you look at the graph at the table at the bottom there, this is the impact on what we refer to as the lowest attaining 20%. If you're analysing your data as a head teacher, you look at the attainment range. And if you look at the lowest attaining 20%, look at the impact we're having there for those who are undertaking a foundation apprenticeship. The successful positive destinations. This is initial positive destinations from immediately they'll leave school. And you can see the Aberdeenshire average is 96.0%. For those who'd undertaken a foundation apprenticeship, 98%. However, Scottish Government quite rightly saying, this isn't just about initial positive destinations. Let's look at how far are they a year, 2 years on. So if you look at this, it's 2 years on. And this is those who'd undertaken a foundation apprenticeship. Into higher education, generally speaking, the FA column there is about 7-8% higher than the Aberdeenshire Scottish average. Those into employment, 10% higher if you'd undertaken a foundation apprenticeship. But look at this next thing, employed as a modern apprenticeship. The modern apprentice, the Scottish average is 8%, the Aberdeenshire average is 12%. Those who'd undertaken a foundation apprenticeship, 45.9%. Even more, if you look at the level 4-5s, now I'll quote our tutor who said it's a lot of the kids that are taking he's an automotive tutor, and he goes, the theory part, when you ask them to do something, instead of a pencil, it's almost like you're putting a red hot poker into their hands because they really didn't like the theoretical written work. But look at their rate, 51.5% of those employed as a modern apprenticeship. That's a tremendous pathway, and you can see the engagement with employers through that. I should also say the photographs you're seeing here are all of our FAs in situ. All the photographs are of Aberdeenshire youngsters in situ in their work placements. Now, but we're also seeing this. So I mentioned before Scottish Government concerns about attendance, engagement, confidence and mental health. Well, look at what our young folk are saying. 22% increase in attendance at school, 35% if you look at the level 4 group, 48% and 66% saying that they're more engaged at school, 60% and 53% saying they would stay on at school. And look at that, it's 80% at level 6 and 77% at level 4-5 said undertaking the FA had made them more confident about their futures. And then we touched upon mental health, 50 and 51% of them saying that the undertaking the FA has had a positive impact on their mental health. A lot of that is to do with the fact that they're actually doing something at school they enjoy, and they've chosen, they get it. And you can see comparing with either the higher or the national course, 76% said they felt the foundation apprenticeship is more enjoyable than the higher. Crucially, a lot of them say that they feel the foundation apprenticeship is their most academic subject. And what they're really meaning there is they're left with a greater understanding of what the subject area might be than they were with the higher. But it's not just pupils, look what the parents are saying. And I think it was Robert that said it earlier on, that when you look at the influences of young folk, parents are by far the greatest influence on a young person's career and how they move forward. But you can see for the parents are saying very similar to the youngsters, attending more, engaging more, feeling more confident in the future, and also the impact on their mental health. We ask foundation apprentices from the start, why did you choose the course? 2% of them say that they chose the course to go into a modern or graduate apprenticeship work. Look at the difference by the end. 44 and 45% of them saying they would grab a graduate or modern apprenticeship with both hands. They love this type of learning. So it's you can see the impact. And I use this is for a young lad who was on his scientific technologies placement at the National Decommissioning Centre just at Newborough, just north of Aberdeen. And what have you found most of you? I've always worried about entering the world of work as I'd imagined there was no equivalent to teachers to ask for help. But I've learned that your colleagues will also will always be willing to help you if you need it. You cannot underestimate. A lot of young folk feel really, really, really apprehensive about stepping into the workforce. Now, it could be, we're hearing earlier on for a few folk, the fact that you've got to be 15, I think it is now, and 16 to be employed, that type of thing. But that's a big issue, and we're looking to address that. I mentioned Aberdeen University's medical school because I spoke about parity of esteem at the beginning between the higher and the foundation apprenticeship. Well, Aberdeen University's medical school, one of the top medical schools, in fact, it is the ranked top medical school in the UK, one of the top in Europe, one of the top in the world. 2 years ago, they said that they now recognise the foundation apprenticeship in health and social care as the equivalent of an A pass at higher, along with the sciences for entry into medicine. Now, is that a real vote of parity of esteem? Why? Well, the reason for it is that they saw these youngsters coming through. Now, I'm using this phrase, it wasn't the phrase they used, the bedside manner. They were used to dealing with folk, the practical skills as well as the academic skills, and that's why they've been so keen on the foundation apprentices. Feedback for the stakeholders, it's incredibly strong. Benefits to employers, a lot of the employers in the call today, and I do ask if you're interested in this at all, please get in touch. We're all ears to get youngsters in placement, and they're there to work. They're not there to shadow or ask you difficult questions. They're there to work as appropriate to the tasks that you're giving them. So the benefits to employers: spot talented, motivated pupils who could become your future employees. get the FAs to work on real projects with your staff, and that seems to reinvigorate staff as well. The programs are designed with employers, therefore helping young people build the skills in your industry and the needs for your future. Attract a broader range of talent. Build stronger links with local schools and local communities. Employers tell us this all the time. The foundation apprenticeships have done, and they're different, is because they are systemic. They give the employers confidence to actually work because they feel, there's something here that's of legacy. Helps support homegrown talent, and crucially helps improve the confidence of the young folk, their teamwork and their meta skills, so that they're better prepared. And the points earlier on were well made, so that the young folk are actually better prepared as they enter into the workplace. The employers, the vast bulk of employers take foundation apprentices the following year. What they tell us, they see the FA as the missing link in the system. They say that the FAs are key to promoting MAs as a pathway. The FA framework brings confidence, as I mentioned earlier on, and it also provides a framework for industry funding and co-creation of the senior phase curriculum. I'm going to touch on this, just the employers see that the FA fundamentally, alongside modern and graduate apprenticeships, is the crucial part of the apprenticeship family, and look at the impact of mentoring at the bottom there. That's crucial. The young folk are telling us that's marking the difference to them is the fact that it's the work placement, it's the assessed SVQ units in the work placement, and the big difference is the mentoring. The mentoring they're getting for their SVQ assessor, who goes out and assesses in the workplace, but also the mentoring they're getting for the workplace. That's what they're telling us is marking the difference in giving us the impact. Liam, sorry, have you got a cable? I think I'm about to run out of battery. If it's just the usual Aberdeenshiring. Meta skills. I've now got 6 graphs that are saying exactly the same thing. In terms of the meta skills, focusing, adapting, initiative, communicating, collaborating, leading, creativity, sense making, critical thinking. These are meta skills that have been developed. The very meta skills my entire career, employers have said to us that our school curriculum simply was not delivering on. So really, really important. Cheers, Keith. This is that was for the previous year. This is for the 24-25. Exactly the same thing. So but crucially, young folk are coming through conversant in the meta skills, and we're now speaking the same language. I remember as head teacher interviewing for head boy and girl. These were tremendous young folk, and you're asking questions at interview, and it was like, so tell us, why do you think you'd be a good candidate? They found it difficult even to do that. And I'm thinking, you're full of skills, you're full of life, you're going to be a tremendous success in your career. What we've now got are employers, the young folk in education speaking the same language, and a lot of this is through the meta skills and through the FA. Now, this is what Robert and I were speaking about from Workot. The Aberdeenshire pupil career aspiration. We know, and you want to be able to read this, folks, but I'll enlarge it in a minute. We know what the career aspirations are of our young folk, right? And you might not be able to see this, but the two big, the most popular career aspirations of young people in Aberdeenshire Council are engineering and energy and healthcare. Actually, if you put health and social care together, it's the most popular career aspiration. Now, I've been working with both sectors over the last few years, and both sectors said to me, Offshore Europe 23, I attended sessions where they were saying to me, see, the problem is the biggest risk is workforce development. And one of the big reasons is that young folk no longer want to come and work in energy. They see it as a dirty career. And I'm thinking, they do. They absolutely want to come and work in your sector. It's exactly the same with healthcare. The problem is, biggest risk, workforce. Big problem is young folk no longer want to come and work in health and social care. Well, they do. So the issue and the priority for us is not going out and speaking more and more and more to the youngsters. Doesn't it hurt me that? Well, it's striking that balance. We'll continue with that. But it's actually, how do we pathway the youngsters who want to come and work in your sector into jobs in your sector? And that's why the employers often say to us, the missing links of foundation apprenticeships. So this is that's the graph, just to simply show. This is a breakdown. It gives you an idea of the data. You'll see the colour bits there are relevant. So what I've done here to save you peering at your screens, this is those are picked out as if you like, the rural skills, the land environment, talent, seed corn, and excuse a pun. So animal care, veterinary nurse 71, veterinary science 55, land and environment and animals, 63 youngsters in Aberdeenshire schools. Now, I do use the Murray and Shire, the Murray and City data because we're Aberdeenshire Council, but I've got it. I should maybe say it publicly, but my colleague shared it with me. And the profile of the city and Murray is almost exactly the same as this. Okay, I'm guessing for Councillor Braes, Angus will be exactly the same. So you can see that, for example, we've got 63 youngsters who've explicitly said, I think it was you, Robert, that mentioned about young folk are the keen to come through and work with COOs now. Well, there's 63 of them saying that they might. Farm worker. So this is explicitly saying, when they've been sitting down with their careers advisor or guidance teacher saying, so what's your career aspiration? Farm worker. 49. How effectively are we pathwaying that 49 youngsters into jobs in the farming sector? And that is the work that we need to do collectively. Fishing and aquaculture, 24. Working with horses, 22. Overall, 368 youngsters in Aberdeenshire schools are saying that they've an interest in this sector for their career. But it's not just there. Look at automotive. We can, for their feedback, a lot of the youngsters who are choosing to undertake the automotive course is because they want to be an agricultural engineer, mechanic, working with tractors and combines and whatever. So we've got 180 in automotive. That's a key aspect to your sector. Robert, servicing your lorries and that kind of stuff. Hospitality, catering and tourism, again, maybe moving for the hardcore firm. That's a really important part of our rural economy, 173. Business. I mean, we've heard about that this morning. 250 youngsters explicitly saying they'd like to work in business. Transport, construction, manufacturing, production. So the seed corn is there, folks. It's how do we pathway that into the sector? Right, Keith, kind of time. Carry on, okay. We've been working just recently with a number of different rural skills, land, nature based sector, including Lantra. I think Lantra is represented in the call today, Ringlink, and the SDS, Education Scotland, Scottish Government are doing a lot at the moment on land-based learning pathways and aquaculture learning pathways. And we're looking at that. But one of the areas that we needed to look at, and it was my equivalent in Dumfries and Galloway, Perth and Kinross, there's myself, and my apologies, there's one other authority, and it just escaped me, working with Scottish Government colleagues for these kind of sectors that we just mentioned, and Education Scotland and so on, Skills Development Scotland, to see how do we maybe develop up the curriculum. Lorna made the point, absolutely spot on. Where is agriculture in the curriculum? Yet our rural hinterland, go back to my first slide there, how are we addressing that crucial part of our rural economy here? That what does it look like? Rural, the legacy, the cultural heritage and so on of the northeast. But also my second slide, for it was along with other high tech, we've got COOs, we've got high-end food and drink production, etc., etc. So we need to get the curriculum to reflect that. Now, in my view, I don't think it does that well enough at the moment, but also I think you'll be pleasantly surprised actually how much is in the curriculum. The problem, and it comes back to the OECD research, how systemic is it? And that's what we need to ensure, that there's actually a clear curriculum rationale, a clear development of the curriculum and pathways into the sector for young folk. So the focus group in land-based and agriculture learning, it's my colleague Dave Martindale. Maybe some of you ken Dave. Dave used to be head teacher at Mearns Academy, now works in my team. Dave sits in this national body for us and an absolute champion of our rural skills and agriculture. So we've been looking at, this group has been looking at, it's a national group led, I think, by either the Scottish Government, Education Scotland, along with the different organisations, Lantra and others, looking at the land-based learning review. And their key consultation outcomes, based on the contributions of participants, identified 6 areas of importance to the sector, the collated examples for each area identified and shared as part of the consultation process and formulated vision statements in accordance with the key messages. And you think, oh, aye, but you actually really, you do need that so that we've got a clear focus and idea for what we're doing. And then the 6 areas of importance: awareness raising, crucial; school engagements, crucial; awards and qualifications, crucial; industry experiences and work placements, absolutely crucial. As I say, I'm all ears for anybody that's want to get involved directly in your business. Skills development and future trends. So that's the areas of importance that's been identified by this Scottish Government Education Scotland group, I would imagine that will chime very much, certainly with what we're hearing this morning, and that's what we'll look to take forward. Specifically about us and where we are. So what is required to make the pathway seamless and systemic? According to the Wood Report, according to OECD and so on, and other research. Well, we need a 3 to 15, age 3 to 15, if it's kind of broad general education, that's for the early years, through primary, up to the end of 3rd year in our secondary schools, the broad general education. We need a curriculum offer. Lorna is absolutely spot on when she said that. We need that. But we also need, in our view, and this is where we're looking to go with this, is a land, nature, rural skills, whatever we call it, foundation apprenticeship offer for these local authorities I've just mentioned. So the 3 local authorities in the North East, obviously, I'm guessing Highlands, certainly Perthshire, Perth and Kinross, Dumfries and Galloway, the Borders and so on, but others as well. We mentioned the Ayrshire, Lanarkshire, a lot of firm in there now, actually. So we're looking to develop up something like that, and we're looking for it for the articulation also with the post-school provision. The extent of this post-school provision through LANTRA and others is remarkable. The courses on offer are absolutely superb, but we need to ensure that we're I suppose the missing link, as the employers would often say, is how do we align the seed corn to benefit from these wonderful post-school opportunities that exist. Just to give you an idea, this mirrors work that we've been doing with the energy sector. We've developed up a new energy engineering course. It's being piloted at Portlethen Academy at the moment. And basically we said, look, here is the potential of a foundation apprenticeship where you've got the theoretical, but you've also got the work placement part. Let's develop up for energy engineering. And I think that something like this we should be looking for in terms of rural skills. This is the SQA Rural Skills course. And the idea of the course would be that you've got the 2 bits. You've got the theoretical part, you've got the work placement part. It's saying you need a mandatory unit in rural business investigation. And that could be anything, to be honest. And then you've got 2 optional units for agriculture, animal care, through it goes. And this would be the starting point. I appreciate, I think, colleagues for LANTRA and elsewhere are saying, yeah, but are these units dated? And that's possibly, I'm just putting this up to give folk that maybe didn't have the education background, the type of thing that we'll look to develop up so that we can bespoke this to the difference between, say, maybe a school for it might be more interested in forestry, for example, as opposed to, say, Middle Academy with agriculture, or whatever it might be. But that gives an idea. To do this effectively, we need the sector. We need the sector to tell us. That's what the energy companies did. They said, okay, this is what we want. And they chose the units. They actually wrote the units for us in partnership with ourselves. And it's actually, they are delivering this course in partnership with our own engineering staff. So, how are we delivering positive outcomes? I suppose I touched upon this already, but it's very much the creation of a career pathways programme, a systemic approach through the foundation apprenticeships, embeds part of esteem in the system, provides framework for confidence in external funding, increased attainment performance at school, improved, sustained, importantly, positive destinations, improved employability skills, more employer engagement partnership, the co-creation of the curriculum, and more effective pathways into employment, addressing workforce development challenges and the issue of equity. I put this up because we're very proud of this, because this was an award at the Offshore Achievement Awards back in March, I think it was, April. And this was a sector, we were highly commended in the sector for the work that we've done with the energy sector in the curriculum and how we've done it. So just that. And I'll leave you with this. This was pupils Peterhead Academy, Portlethen Academy that pulled together, and this was their quotes. And I always show this slide because this is really important. We can't lose sight of the Burns. And that's really the important thing here. This opportunity is the best thing that's happened to me. I'm treated with respect, so I give back respect. I've made friends and I've learned so much. I want to do well and I want to show everyone I'm good enough. I love how I'm treated. I know everyone believes me. That's maybe want to do my best. I'll struggle with some bits, but I know I can do this. And that's so powerful when you hear the Burns saying that. And the impact of that is hopefully Robert's going to hear young folk. He said, wow, they really do stick in, because that's fundamentally what we're trying to do here. That's
it. Thank you for that presentation, Andrew. That was really interesting. And it really ties into what was said earlier by Robert. And I think you've got a good grasp of what the industry needs, not only agriculture, but everywhere else. And hopefully we can move forward with this at peace. We've got some questions. I think Councillor Braes, before, I know you're from Angus, Councillor, but I would like to say that although this is presented by Aberdeenshire, it is of very great relevance to the city, to Moray and Angus, and it's important that we discuss these things. So our first question is from Councillor Braes.
Yes, thanks, convener, and I actually do have a question this time. Really enjoyed that presentation, and it's sort of very relevant to me today. I came across a young laddie with no connection whatsoever to agriculture, desperate to drive tractors for the rest of his life, and maybe combines too. Absolutely desperate. He will turn 15 next month. So I got in touch with Ringlink Scotland at Lourny, and they put me through to Michelle Laurie, who's the skills development coordinator there. And she was very helpful, had a long chat, first class person. And she sent me a lot of links to different things around the pre-apprenticeship programme. And I've forwarded that to this guy. And if he's up for it and up to it, that's his pathway in agriculture. So really grateful and can't thank Michelle enough. But my question is, we've got this guy. He's not going to be able to start pre-apprenticeship, providing he's accepted to it, until January 27. And at the moment, as far as I'm aware, he's stuck in a classroom where he doesn't want to be, getting bored out of his skull, probably developing mental health problems because he shouldn't be inside very much. And what questions should I, as a councillor, be asking of our education department in Angus about what this guy's currently doing in the school system? And basically, how do I get him out of the classroom and somewhere else where he might be at least engaged?
Thank you, Councillor Braes. And I've got to be very careful of stepping into that. However, I understand fully. Maybe the best thing, if you want, Councillor Braes, if you were to email me off table, if you like, I'll put you in touch with Angus, my equivalent in Angus Council, and we can take it from there. The obvious thing going through my mind when you described the young person there, his age, from what you're saying, if it's January 27, he will be in 4th year, but he'll be a Christmas leaver who will have to do the first part of 5th year. It would strike me, as I'd mentioned earlier on, something like the automotive foundation apprenticeship would be a good starting point. It's about mechanic, and you could, for example, the idea that because they're under 16 generally, you do a project, we build these kit cars that they go up to Afford and race, and so it's tremendous. But actually, we also give them a work placement over and above that. And the things like the fleet services in Aberdeenshire Council and so on. But if there was a local agricultural engineer, there's nothing stopping them going into that. But if you provide me with your request, send me through. I'll link you up with my equivalent in Angus Council. Brecon High School, for example, are very strong on foundation apprenticeships.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much for that. And your email address? is available in correspondence around.
Yeah, andrew.ritchie@aberdeenshire.gov.uk, Neil.
Right, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for big upping AFAD, which is in my ward. But you're spot on in what they do with the foundation apprenticeship and the models, the cars they build, electric cars going around the tracks. Fantastic to watch, and it's a great boost for the kids too. Councillor Georgie, you have a question.
Thank you for the presentation. Yes, I have one question and one comment, both positive. So thank you for this. And my comment is that mental health was mentioned in the previous presentation. So I was really glad to see that it's been drawn out in this one as well as an important area to consider. So thank you for showing us the data on that. My question specifically relates to diversifying the workforce, and I was really pleased to see the number of women involved in this, because agriculture is considered a male-dominated field. And I was just wondering if you could share good practice in terms of what's working to encourage more women and support more women. Like, are there tailored training opportunities within the foundation apprenticeship? It's just for
you're breaking up,
educational
Fatima.
purposes to see what works and what we can continue building on. Thank you.
Sorry, Fatima, you broke up there.
Yeah, my internet's a bit
I think
bad.
I've got the gist.
Yeah,
I've got the gist. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. A couple of things there. One of the beauties of the foundation apprenticeships is you can really target. I mentioned equalities, and I can share this data with you. But we threw a lot of resource, for example, in working with the universities and indeed employers. A good example would be in the healthcare sector, where about 90% of our foundation apprentices, and we've got in the healthcare sector 170 a year we're doing, and the vast bulk female. So we were then targeting, working with the universities, how many males could we get into the healthcare sector, and we threw a lot of resource at this in terms of just saying, right, how do we role models and so on. It is a tough nut to crack, and it's deeply rooted societal issues. But we're not giving up, of course, but we'll continue at it. Another good example of the strategy we've used would be in construction. Quite often, our most talented construction FAs and the engineering FAs who do the PEO hands-on workshop stuff are female. We just didn't get very many of them coming through. So last year we ran a female-only construction group, and it's proved to be very popular. So it's quite obvious that the perceptions, and that's why it's so important. The Wood Report recognised this, the work in the primary schools, because the research has shown you by the time a youngster's in primary 4, generally speaking, they've their mindset and what their career will be. So we're trying to undo a lot of societal stuff, but also family ideas and so on, and perceptions. But we just keep at it. But there's no a panacea here. There's no one kind of magical wand that can hoot and address this. But I can absolutely assure you, it's something that we monitor the data. We actually report back formally through KPIs in the data on this, and we just keep at it, because it's the nature of, when you speak to the construction sector, the nature of construction's changing, and there is no reason at all why the pathways for large numbers of women could be through into the construction sector, as it indeed is, and into farming and so on as well. So again, happy to follow up in any of that, but I hope that's given you some idea of what we're up to.
Thank you. Next question from, sorry, did you want to come back, Fatima?
No, I just said thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor Turvey.
Yes, thank you very much. Lovely presentation. And then I think that we do have so much potential in our youngsters here that, we need just to give them the best opportunities and, help them to find the best way they like, and the happy way, they want to thrive to and learn. I lived in 3 education systems to my life, and I think that it's interesting the way we are doing here. in Scotland, I mean in Shire, in Scotland, and you compare to like some European countries, to Asian countries, we are everybody. I think everybody in the world, we are pushing people to go to the university, but for some people, it's just not that doesn't make them happy, or they don't make them comfortable. There are people, and that's also sometimes the parents, dreams and hope and whatever. And I think that's something to be considered. No, can be considered. But we have to show that every trade and every skills has its success, and is you can thrive in any of them. Yes. Also, but that means also for I think for the academies to have that success, to be able to guide our youngsters and and maybe send the right message to the society and to the parents, is to like hold the academy staff and guidance advisors and counselors can just see when before even because that's the problem is like from the moment you don't feel happy at school, you don't happy in your learning, you can go quickly, not wanting to go to school, attendance drop and everything. So the looking for the right moment to approach the youngsters and the family about, hey, actually there are other ways to learn, there are other ways to learn a skill, which give you great working opportunities. And as you have shown here, it's very important that the university offer a bridge way to, compensate what the difference of learning. And, I think that's in many urban countries you have that. If you are doing a different, more technical and professional high school path, then you have a year or sometimes 2 years gap. A bridge is not a gap, it's a bridge. And then you can go to the same university studies track. So I think it's a lot of learning from the best, and learning from the difficulties from us and from the other countries, and where the system work the best is something interesting to do.
Yep. Thank you very much. It is absolutely that. I suppose back to that parity of esteem between the different pathways, and it's getting the most appropriate pathway for young folk. When I started in this job, I met a lot of folk from industry who were highly successful. Robert had mentioned a similar track himself, and they said school was not for me, and I didn't do very well at school, this kind of stuff. And but yet they're now running, as we heard this morning, and this would be very familiar in the energy sector, large and highly successful businesses. So these individuals that were the issue, it was the school curriculum is the issue. So I think what we're seeing, and certainly we're seeing this here, is a change in perception of this vocational, professional, technical qualifications. And as you saw in the graph I showed you there, our demand far outstrips our supply and able to be delivering these. And we certainly get parents onto us really very keen that their child can benefit from a foundation apprenticeship.
Thank you. Richard Armitage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Apologies for being late earlier on. So just by way of introduction, Richard Armitage from SIUC. So thank you for that fantastic presentation, Andrew. Really reinforces lots of certainly the beliefs I have. And I think I would reinforce the point you're making about the increasing esteem for this as a pathway of education. And, I think that's really important. We've found with our modern apprenticeships that we have a similar pattern that you were describing, namely that they do better than the students who are on roughly equivalent conventional FE courses. So and by quite a few percentage points. So I think it's interesting to see that our trend, or your trend, is followed on when students do the modern apprenticeship. And I think the pre-apprenticeship again is a very useful way of sort of enhancing the apprenticeship sort of total pathway, the journey, can I call it? And interestingly, just as an aside, we've actually doubled the number of pre-apprenticeship opportunities that we provide. So we used to have one intake to Ringlinks pre-apprenticeship, which we work with them to deliver. We now have two entries to that, which I think is really positive. Again, like yourself, we have more people wanting to do modern apprenticeships than we actually have funded modern apprenticeship places, and that is possibly something that we need to look at when it comes to education and the funding of education. I think the other point I wanted to come on to was really interested with the new development of the land-based foundation apprenticeship, if I've written that down correctly. And we'll be happy for if you're not already talking to my colleagues, because I know we have a specialist team dealing with apprenticeships, for us to sort of be involved in some conversations with how we might help with that. But I think the bit from that one is you've sort of hinted at it and discussed it, is where do apprenticeships go next? And I think if you look at the graduate apprenticeship frameworks that are currently available, there aren't any that you would drop on that are explicitly land-based, and I think that's perhaps the next area work for collectively across the education sector, both from schools level, but also in the higher education and further education sector, that we need to look at. So really interesting talk, and thank you for that. And I learned a lot more about foundation apprenticeships, which I didn't know before, so thank you for that.
Thanks very much, Richard. Yes, SRUC will be involved. What we're trying to do is really just get the broad parameters of how we take this forward. But there is a real desire in the group to make this work. It is fundamental. I also think the point you raised there about the offer at the moment, this is work in progress. We need to be saying, right, we've got these youngsters coming through, where are their next steps? And we know from our data, and I'm guessing yours as well, that young people are very, very interested in things like graduate apprenticeships. And I think there's a real niche there for this sector, but others as well, where the young people have got a pathway, and the offer is there. The vast bulk of young folk really want to work, and they're invigorated by work. Our survey of parents, it's interesting, parents are saying, they'll say, round the supper table, and for a normal school day, they'll say, how do you go on at school today? Oh, all right. The days they've been in their work placement, how do you go on at school today? It's why you'll never believe it happened to work today. And it's opening up conversation, and a number of parents in the feedback have been saying that to us. They're saying they're a different level of maturity because they've been exposed to the work environment. So I think you're right, Richard. I think there's an opportunity there for pathways through MA, through GA, and that's a lot of work we're doing. Really, all of the different sectors to say, right, look, this is how you we need to take this forward, not just as individual businesses, but actually systemically across the country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that, Andrew. Yeah.
Thank you. Niall Evans.
Yeah, thank you. I think my kind of observation is it's really good to see some progress being made towards a foundation apprenticeship in this area, and a lot of interest across local authority areas for that as well. But one thing I think I wanted to pick up on as well, with Richard there just saying about SRUC's kind of support for 2 intakes now of pre-apprenticeships. I thought it's probably just worth mentioning that Ringlink have currently got their winter intake open, so applications are kind of open until the end of October in there. But equally, as well as the young people that are being sought to take part in those programs, there's a push and a requirement similarly to the foundation apprenticeships, the partnership requirement for mentor farms to actually host and support the young people on that pre-apprenticeship. And I know Ringlink are always keen to hear from any businesses as well that might be interested in taking somebody on along those lines as well.
Yes, and I think that's an area, again, it comes back, and I've stressed it all the way through. This has got to be partnership. No matter how the changes we make in the 3 to 18 curriculum, or indeed the post-school curriculum, we need the employer buy-in and engagement.
Thank you for that. I think that's the last of our questions and comments. One wee thing from myself. I think Aberdeenshire and the whole North East is quite behind these apprenticeships. I think we're all sold on that idea. But I do feel there's still resistance elsewhere in Scotland to this idea. I don't think it's been picked up as well as it has been here. Is that what you're sensing? Or I'm concerned that if we're going to the Scottish Government to get more resource to do this, if there's resistance elsewhere in Scotland, that may not happen.
There is variability across Scotland, that's for sure. In part, it is maybe how they've been delivered, where across a 2-year model and for a certain type of youngster, as opposed to we've actually mainstreamed them for the reasons I've explained. And one of the frustrations we've got is that when we're speaking about foundation apprenticeships, you're almost folks understanding elsewhere is almost a completely different thing. Yet it's the same course. There's a lot of work that we've been doing with the Scottish Government. Without getting into too much detail, the tertiary bill is currently going through. We've made strong representations, both as a local authority, but also through groups like, for example, the Association of Directors of Education Scotland, to ensure that, look, this is how it can be done. And what fundamentally would back that up is the OECD report. And I think it's just ensuring, as we spoke earlier on about the alignment of the system, I think it's also ensuring that government policy is aligned as well.
Well, thank you for that, Andrew. I think we can all agree that 2 presentations today have been very good. Thank you both for coming. It's been very educational, if we can use that word. And I wish you both well in the future. One, Robert Weir Farm and the Foundation Apprenticeships, etc., and everything that goes along with it. It's got such a huge potential. It's so good to see kids who otherwise would have, as we've hinted at, have mental health problems, been stuck in school. It's very important that we progress this idea. And I hope the rest of Scotland takes it on and wakes up to the potential of what we're doing, or what you're doing. But anyway, thank you very much for coming. We have an industry report and a roundtable roundup, but I don't think we have anything, so that's fine. So thank you all for coming to this meeting. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. It's been very, very good, and I shall see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks all. Ta-da.